Milwaukee, Wisconsin woman, 23-year-old Lydia Kimona Katahina, has been arrested and charged with the murder of 41-year-old Chad Wilson, whom she met online. It all began on the 8th of December when Lydia and Chad got together in person for the first time after meeting through Facebook about 2 weeks earlier. Chad had picked her up in his black Cadillac earlier that day, and the pair went back to his house. They then spent the next 24 hours drinking alcohol and doing drugs, including cocaine. While at Chad's home, he became angry at Lydia for putting a lighter and cups on his table. She didn't appreciate the aggressive way he spoke to her, so she asked him to drive her home. On the way home at around 5:45 a.m. on the 9th of December, they argued and Chad pulled over on Stark Street. He told Lydia to get out of the vehicle, which upset her because she was carrying a large bag of clothes. Lydia then pulled out a knife from her purse and chased Chad across the street and stabbed him 3 times in the legs and stomach before he was able to wrestle the knife away. As he screamed for help, Lydia walked up to him and kicked him in the face while he was on the ground. Lydia then grabbed the keys off him and got into his vehicle and sped towards him, trying to hit him. She missed a couple of times as he hid behind a tree before she was finally able to hit him in the street, running him over a few times. Lydia then drove around the block and neighbours' yards, and when she returned and saw Chad was still moving on the ground, she finished him off by running over his head and neck. Witnesses saw Lydia get out of the car and stand over Chad's lifeless body and close his eyes. As sirens were heard approaching, she fled the scene down an alley in his car and went back to her place. The authorities mounted a search for Chad's vehicle, which they eventually located about a block away in Lydia's driveway. She was sitting inside the car, which had accident damage and blood on the front passenger side headlight and grille. She was arrested and taken into custody. While interviewed, she told detectives that she had a number of opportunities to leave Chad, but wanted to make sure that he was dead because Chad was a gang member and threatened to pull a gun on her. Lydia has been charged with first-degree intentional homicide and felony use of a dangerous weapon, and her bail was set at $100,000. If convicted, she faces life in prison. 2 men have bashed 49-year-old Jose Tellez to death with bats while he put up Christmas lights outside his home. The incident occurred at around 6:30 p.m. on Saturday the 11th of December, located at 3505 West 58th Street in Chicago, Illinois. His 14-year-old daughter was inside the home when she heard screams. She looked out the window and saw 2 men who were approximately 20 to 30 years of age, one wearing a black sweater and the other wore a grey sweater. The men had exited a red sedan carrying bats when they began to severely beat her father in the face and head before fleeing. His daughter ran out of the house screaming. A woman from across the road heard the commotion and responded to the home. She found Jose badly beaten and bleeding profusely. He was barely breathing and laying motionless on the ground of his front yard, with the light still in his hand. The woman tried administering first aid while the girl got a blanket put on his head to try and stem the bleeding. The paramedics arrived and was rushed to the local hospital. He suffered extensive skull and facial fractures from multiple blows to the head. At around 10:32 p.m. that night, he died of blunt force trauma. Jose was originally from Mexico and he worked as a landscaper. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. No arrests have been made to date, and the motive of the attack is unclear as the investigation into the matter continues.